Welcome to episode 5 of the CyberPod. I'm Kash.
And I'm Tarek.
In today's episode, we will start a new series, the Threat to Your Business series. In the next few episodes, we'll cover what the top threats are to businesses, especially small businesses, and how we can prevent what the threat is, how big the threat is, tools to use to prevent it, and how we respond to an attack. We, depending on the amount of content, may break an episode down into a series within a series, kind of Inception.
Always.
So let's dive into the first, potentially the biggest threat, phishing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be that guy that says that every topic is my favourite topic, but I genuinely think that phishing is probably my favourite one in cyber. I think it's mainly because you don't really need to be in cybersecurity to actually appreciate phishing and scams. I think everyone at some point in their life will have had a phishing email, text, phone call, maybe something in person. Scams have been going on for years, and they will always happen because it's a really easy way for people to try and take advantage of a situation.
I think some people would say phishing is their least favourite topic for that reason. It forces them to do security awareness training at work every 3 or 6 months. That half an hour worth of training that phishing is forcing on them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of people I speak to that, like friends, family, etc., that are not in the cyber industry do complain about the amount of information security awareness training they have to do and phishing email training. So I say to them, well, listen, when you click on that email for real, it's going to be a very different conversation. So, hopefully this podcast, I think we're going to split it into 2 actually. So across these next sort of 2 sessions, we'll really dive deep into how you can potentially spot a phishing email and go from there. Because, it's really valuable to, like I said, your personal life, but then also your professional life, because people are going to target you from both aspects. So what is phishing? Now, if I was to give you the NCSC's explicit definition, we're going to say it's when attackers are sending scam emails, right? So messages, content to try and disguise or send users to another location. So that could be links to malicious websites, right? And these websites may contain malicious software, so malware could be on those sites. That could then sabotage the system on the device that they're using, or they're designed to trick you into doing something. So actually they want you to take some actions, and that's why you will find that pretty much all of the time in a phishing email, text message, etc., there is some level of urgency. You need to do this now to prevent this from happening. So there's usually that call to action, right? I'll give a good example. So with my last name being Hussein, a couple of years ago I got a nice email from the US Department of Justice to essentially say that they'd spent some time. They were now they'd found the contacts that were appropriate to contact for Saddam Hussein's descendants. And so all I needed to do was provide them with my bank account details, my login information, so that they could do some authorizations on my behalf. And then I would receive the small sum of $17.5 million. Needless to say, I didn't fall for this. There's probably someone in an office saying, we told him, we told him it was 17 million. He didn't reply. So, they did all they could to get me in. But like I said, there's that 2 kind of pronged approach to a phishing email. Either there's something to entice you, right? There's a reward that you can get if you follow these steps. Or there's some sort of danger. You need to do this right now, otherwise there's going to be this drastic situation that happens. So, it usually falls into one of those 2 categories, right? What kind of different phishing emails do you sort of come
I
across,
think
I guess?
people who've done security awareness training will be aware of these. But in general, phishing is a broad category. When you say the term phishing, it's generic emails sent out to millions of people at the same time in bulk, and they're hoping somebody clicks it. It's not targeted at all, like your Royal Mail type scams or Amazon delivery type scams.
Sending out that phishing net, right? It's what can I get back?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you move into a term called spear phishing. This is, like it suggests, a spear. You go and you look for one fish and you try and hit it. But in this, it's targeting a specific sector or a specific company to say, for example, if you've got a new CEO joining, there's emails coming now from on behalf of that new CEO who now wants your WhatsApp number so they can contact you on WhatsApp directly, or they want to authorize a payment, but it's specific. They spoofing names, pretending to be from your company and targeting you that way.
Yeah. So rather than, a generic catch-all, hi, you've won an award, provide us your details to get this money. It's, I want you specifically, and I'm going to get you some specific information to target you.
Yeah, and they've done some background research, which makes them a bit more difficult to deal with. And then you've got whaling, where it's even more targeted. They're not going after a sector or a company. They're going after the executives within an organization. And these people are people with authority and power, and they can authorize things like big payments. So it makes them
juicy target, right? Yeah.
Targets. Yeah.
Okay.
Then we have two terms which are phishing, but from different mediums. So we have smishing, where you get instant messages like from WhatsApp or a text message. And then we have vishing, which is when somebody gets on a phone and tries to phish you, force you to give up information, or again, login details or something confidential from a phone call. And people find that harder to deal with because there's somebody on the other end of the phone.
Yeah.
Not always. Sometimes you get the tech support scams, which don't work too well. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, it really highlights the creativity in cyber as well. How do we call this term? Okay, it's phishing, but what happens if it's on a phone? Okay, SMS, smishing, we'll use that. And then what about if it's a voice call? Vishing? Let's use that. I don't think cyber terminology is the most creative, but it's very logical. I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
it
makes sense. You can see where it comes from.
Yeah. So how big a threat is phishing, right? So I think when you talk about like statistics, they're often something that you can use to spin a narrative, but they're also something that you can very instantly dismiss because they don't sound that impressive, right? So you hear something like, 1.2% of emails being phishing emails, and you go, that doesn't sound like a lot. That's not too bad. But then you compare that to the sheer volume of emails that are sent on a daily basis. You're talking about 3.4 billion phishing emails per day, right? That's quite significant. So whilst there are a lot of genuine emails going, which boosts the numbers in that aspect, there's still quite a high amount of phishing emails going out, and that includes, the generic ones, catch-all, trying to get a lot of people, and those targeted, really sophisticated ones. Right?
And this is just emails, right? We're not talking about vishing or smishing.
No, just emails. And I think one of the, so I don't know about yourself, I think my first email account was Outlook or Hotmail. It's got so many different names, actually. It's the Microsoft solution, right?
Yeah.
So I have a Hotmail account, and that I moved away from into Google for a number of reasons, but mainly because so many companies were spamming me. And Google's anti-spam rules are a little bit better. I still obviously have access to my Outlook account, and every now and again, if you look in the junk folder of your Outlook inbox, it's the things that don't even reach your inbox it's filtering out, that you go, okay, a lot of emails are coming in to my account. I might get 20, 30 emails a day. There's maybe another 200 that make it to my junk box, and they all follow the same sort of pattern. There's a reward that I'm missing out on, or there's an urgent thing that I need to deal with. And Outlook or Google is immediately going, dodgy sender, dodgy content, not having it, doesn't pass the those filters. But obviously some of them do make it through. And I think that's where we talked about threat actors in a previous episode, and it's that level of sophistication, right?
Yeah.
If you're lower down that tree, less skilled, you're probably not going to tailor those emails well enough, then maybe not going to get past those those anti-spam rules, but actually, the more sophisticated threat actors know how to bypass those rules and know how to get those emails into the inbox.
Time working out how these security tools work so they can get around them.
Yeah, because that's half the challenge, is get it in the, this is your fishing net, right? If it's not in the water, you're not going to catch anything. You've got to at least get it in the water to start with, and then we'll talk about what you're actually going to catch then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's all dependent. When it comes to success of phishing as well, it's all about timing, right? So when it comes into that inbox, does it catch you at the right time? Now, we'll talk later on about like simulated phishing exercises. I used to love it. It was one of my first roles. But one of the key things that we would measure is what kind of time of the day is most successful to catch people. Now, whether that's in the morning, the afternoon, the evening, Friday afternoon, when people are just need to be out of here. So then you start seeing some metrics around time of day and that kind of success. But I think you've got a good example when it comes to this sort of area.
Yeah, and it's purely down to that timing element. So I tell people regularly that I have a startup where we do cybersecurity, and I've worked in the cybersecurity space.
Tell everyone that will listen, and even those that won't.
Exactly. And I told this friend of a friend that I work in the cybersecurity space for the last 10 years. And of course, she then had to share her story about how she almost got phished, even though she has quarterly security awareness training. And in this scenario, it was coming up to her kid's birthday, and she knew her elderly parents had shipped a gift to him. And when she got a text message to say, we've received your parcel, but a payment hasn't been made, she instantly thought, must be my parents. This is the kind of thing they do. They're not tech savvy. They make these kind of mistakes all the time. I'm expecting a parcel from the Royal Mail. So she clicked on the link. Luckily for her, it was not malware. It was a phishing email hoping to get her credentials or her bank login details. But it turned out when she clicked on the link, her training was good enough for her to notice the URL that the website this has gone to doesn't match the Royal Mail. The website looks the same, but the URL was different. So that's saved her. But if they had used a website that was similar in name, she would have ended up giving her details because she thought it was genuine.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point as well, because I think you touch on there about the level of sophistication, right? If you're a less sophisticated threat actor, you might not do that attention to detail, right? You're going to get maybe the first 3-4 steps right, but then that final one, the last little hook to get them, you might make a little error there. Whereas those sophisticated threat actors, they don't miss a trick. They'll look at that and go, right, okay, so we go through this process, we walk through it. Okay, when the user gets to here, is there anything on this site that's going to indicate that this might not be the Royal Mail? And yeah, I think that's a really scary example, because I mean, I obviously get a lot of parcels delivered myself. And when I get an email or a text saying, problem with your delivery, I usually assume that it's genuine, because I've probably got a parcel coming that week. And even if I haven't ordered something, I'll assume maybe I have and I forgot. So, yeah. Cool. So I think back to my stats, obviously, maths degree.
Let's go for your shopping habits.
Yeah, enough about the shopping habits. Get enough of that from my wife. But if we talk about statistics, and I think one of the big ones that comes to mind, right, is when people talk about the origin of a cyber attack. And I think a recent study by Deloitte talked about 91% of cyber attacks originating from a phishing email, right? So it might not be the end result. That might not be the whole cyber attack right there, but that's the way in, right?
Yeah.
You need to get past a load of different areas to compromise an organization, right? So your ultimate goal is to get access to their sensitive database, right? And you've got a number of different ways you could do it. You could start trying to hack into their servers. You could try, targeting their website, targeting their assets online. They probably invested in, if they're, a decent company with some, switched on security approach. They're going to have some endpoint protection. They're going to have some login and monitoring in place. They've got some technical controls from that aspect. So you might find that that's not so fruitful. So actually what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to target the staff that work for them, because guess what? Everyone on LinkedIn says I work for this company. One of the things that always cracks me up from like a government position is you're not supposed to disclose whether you have security clearance or not. But it's pretty clear if you work in a certain position for a certain company, what access you're likely to have to things. So if you're profiling an organization, you're going to look for people of interest, right? And then you're going to find their email address, and then you're going to send them something. And if you can use that phishing email to compromise their account, well, all of a sudden you can use their account to start doing things. And so even though you've got monitor and login in place, rather than, okay, some external user in China is sending like 1,000 requests to our account, that looks suspicious. But Kash from the development team is, doing a load of stuff on that server. They're probably building something at the moment. That looks genuine. Leave them to it.
And we'll talk about insider threat in more detail in this series, but another episode. But I think a key point that you touched on there was using LinkedIn or job descriptions to profile. Like people put the equipment they use within a job profile, what you'll be working on within your team, especially from a technical point of view. They say we have this firewall.
I'm an expert in AWS and Fortinet firewalls. And
exactly. So that company now uses these systems.
Cool.
And that's what you need to work your way around.
Yeah. Rather than, scanning their, public infrastructure and going through all this to try and find out those technical information, you could just look at the staff. What are the staff saying? What a job description saying? Job description says must have. You must be able to work with these technologies. They're probably useful. Unless you get there and go, we don't use any of that. It's just a test.
Yeah, and I think we'll touch more on that in a threat intelligence episode.
Yeah.
And profiling businesses, which is part of the reconnaissance phase of an attack. But for now, let's bring it back to phishing.
Okay. Yeah, I do love threat intelligence as well. So I think if we go to another example then, so I think you've got a good AI related example.
One of my favorite AI deepfake examples.
Yeah.
So this was about somebody in the finance department who received an email, phishing email. They weren't aware of this being a phishing email at the time, but it looked like it came from the CFO with a link to a meeting saying, please join this meeting, keep it confidential because we're talking about confidential M&A, and we'll have a more detailed discussion on the call. So this person thought, CFO is reaching out to me. They're not asking for any details. They're asking me to join a call urgently. I'll join.
That's not out of the ordinary as well. That's we have something urgent. If it's my problem, it's your problem. Join this call now.
And it's a link to join a Teams call. So
you'll quickly establish
you're
if they're
going
not there.
to go face to face with somebody to have a conversation. That's fine, right?
Yeah.
Turned out they joined this call. The CEO's on there. The CFO's there. The head of legal is there. All the big boys are in this meeting, and they start talking about this M&A. And there's now a hold up, and they need to pay X amount.
Mergers and acquisitions.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, mergers and acquisitions.
Got my own back now. Yeah, we might have to start keeping score of who misses an acronym. Have a little counter in the corner or something.
But yeah, so they were on this call, just sitting back, listening to all this information, and then the call and the conversation turns to them, and they're in the spotlight, being told by all of these people that own the business or run the business to make a payment to unblock something that they've just been discussing. This person obviously thinking, hey, head of legal's here, CFO's here, CEO's here, they're giving me verbal authorization to make this.
Way above my pay grade.
Exactly.
Cool. That's all the approval I need.
You said it, it's done.
Yeah.
They did it. It got flagged up as a payment. Lots of conversations started internally, and they realized that was a scam. They've just been conned out of however many thousands or millions.
Yeah, I've seen maybe not the deep fake thing. I think is quite scary. I've seen not necessarily deep fakes, but I've seen like spoofing emails, that kind of thing. So, seeing that a chief executive's on a plane at a certain time, I'm going to use that time to email their personal assistant and say, oh, can you make some payments for me? I need to do this urgently. Sorry, I'm at the airport. I forgot to do this. He goes, yeah, I know he's at the airport. That makes sense. I'm going to make those payments for his behalf. They get off the plane and they go, what the heck's happened here?
Yeah,
So,
and no one to question it for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours that they're in the airport on the plane.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, no, I definitely think the deep fake thing is quite scary though, because it's, we talk about, when it comes to like phishing, I think the main aspect, right, is legitimacy, right? So from both sides of the fence, if you're questioning it, you're questioning the legitimacy. If you're believing it, there's got to be some level of legitimacy there. There's got to be something that you go, okay, they know enough information, this must be genuine,
Yeah,
like you said.
and also when it's coming from someone of authority,
Yeah.
you don't want to go and question your CFO or your CEO or somebody with that much authority who could sack you.
Yeah, tell the CFO to please get out their ID to verify.
Verify who they are.
Actually, that conversation's going.
It reminds me of a funny story, but we'll save that for another time.
I love a good funny story there. But okay, well, I guess when it comes to like trying to prevent phishing attacks from being successful, you've got two big aspects, right? You've got the user side and then the technical control side, right? So from the user side, it's all about like end user training, and that's the thing that people will be familiar with.
Yep.
It's those unskippable mandatory courses that you have to do.
Extremely, extremely important.
Yeah, and it's okay. Follow these steps, look for these flags. You've got 6 emails. Can you identify which one's the genuine one, which one's the phishing one? And once you know about those steps, it's supposed to become inherent in your mind. It's not supposed to be, I'm going to sit and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But in your mind, you're building up a risk profile and you're reading that and going, that seems suspicious. Let me look into it more. Right?
Or you read it and then you forget about it for the next 6 months. You have to do the training again.
Yeah. So it's
sometimes, unfortunately, it does happen.
Yeah, depending on the security awareness program. I think as someone that's run security awareness programs, I try and make them a bit more interactive and enjoyable. They're not always that enjoyable.
I think the reporting and tracking and seeing who is making an improvement and who's not, and changing the difficulty levels of your simulator and knowing how to choose the right simulator.
Yeah, and I think it's one on that topic. It's one of the big problems is the quick and easy way to do it is to just bulk send out some training videos, make them unskippable, force everyone to watch them, and just track. Yep, everyone's watched them. Cool, done.
People will click play and walk away to get a coffee and come back.
Especially in this remote working environment, people are going to make a coffee, do a few life admins while that video is playing. Whereas actually, what you want to have is some sort of incentivization. You want to have like a program that rewards users, not just for, okay, the simulated phishing email arrives in the inbox, they don't click on anything. So you've tracked that, okay, no one clicked on it, all good. You actually want people to report that. So you want to be tracking and having some sort of motivation for people to be saying, no, that looks like a phishing email. I'm going to report that to the security team so they can go and investigate it. Because what you don't want is legitimate phishing emails landing in someone's inbox, people just saying, I'm not going to click it, looks a bit dodgy, I'll just leave it.
And
then you have no idea. Because
and then somebody else gets it and clicks on it, where you could have taken the action of preventing somebody from being able to get to that website or downloading that attachment, or you just delete those, block that sender so the emails don't get in the first place.
Good point. And then the other side of the fence, you've obviously got the user side, then you've got the technical controls.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about these technical controls, T. Okay,
so not to go into huge amounts of detail, because obviously this is a whole topic in itself as well. That's probably the biggest buzzword we're going to come out with, is this is a whole topic in itself. But this one really is. But essentially, this is the stuff that's going on behind the scenes that you don't see in your email inbox. And it's things that can be happening in your corporate email, your personal email, but it's things like email filtering, right? So you have those built-in spam filters. They have certain like detection scores. So they have a threshold where they go, right, it's met these 4 factors, it's gone past that threshold, I'm going to put it in the spam folder.
So that's like if you use Google, they have their own filters. Microsoft for Outlook have their own filters.
And these aren't perfect, because sometimes you're waiting on an email and the company says to you, double check your spam folder, because we've got a link in there that might look a bit suspicious, or we've got an attachment in there that sometimes these spam filters don't like, that sort of thing. So like I said, it's not a guarantee of a phishing email or not a phishing email, but they've passed the threshold of there's something suspicious about that email. So at least I know for a fact for me myself, if there's an email in my inbox and there's an email in my spam folder, my appreciation for whether that's a phishing email or not dramatically changes. Right? If I'm in my spam folder, my guard is immediately up.
Yeah.
I'm not going in there thinking, oh, cool, I've won £1 million, or oh no, my account's been locked. I need to sign in again to regain access. So there's that side. You've also got things like email security gateways, right? And they're essentially sitting at the perimeter, right? So before those emails actually reach your inbox, they've got to go through this gateway, and it's got to scan and block those emails if it, again, picks up factors that it deems to be above that threshold. So when you talked about threat intelligence before, a lot of them have like threat intelligence tooling built into them.
Yeah, like known phishing lists.
Yeah, known phishing lists, dodgy domains, things that essentially look at the domain that's sending that email, right? Has it come from a suspicious IP? Has it been reported for phishing quite a bit in the last few days? Often when people choose to use a new website or, choose to buy something from a new site, diligent people will do a quick check, trusted advisor, see, does it have good reviews, that kind of thing. That's what your email security gateway is essentially doing.
I've heard recently about a really new, good, up-and-coming one, which uses AI and machine learning and user behavior to work out whether an email is phishing or not. So they look for the language and how it's written. Has it been written by AI?
Yeah.
Is this the kind of language this person usually uses when they send an email? And if it's something that's abnormal, they will highlight that as, even if they don't block it, they will say, okay, it's still some things that don't quite match normal behavior. And it's not just from within your organization, it's all of their clients. They will pick up new phishing emails or spam emails and pick up indicators from those. Then they then create rules for and apply to all of their customers. And then they say, oh, this language here indicates it could potentially be a phishing email. So they will highlight that as being potential, be aware. So then the user is more aware and a bit more cautious when dealing with that email.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And yeah, I think anything that gives you more context and information, I think, is always really powerful, because that is the job of you as a user when you're judging an email, right? Is to look at the context and go, is this right? You're essentially doing that process in your head. And if someone can help you, or a tool can help you do that, that's super valuable to you.
There are many on the market. And it's worth doing the research and obviously looking at how deep your pockets are.
Yeah, always the way,
the
right?
best one for you.
Yeah. And then finally, it's all about the spoofing, right? And I think you touched on it earlier. One of the big checks that people do or people don't do is, who's this coming from, right? So, like you said with the Royal Mail example, okay, it's from Royal Mail, it sends me to a page. This doesn't look like a Royal Mail domain. Okay, there's some content that looks similar, but this isn't one of their domains. So one of the things that slightly more sophisticated threat actors to try and do is spoof a domain, or they'll try and appear as if they are coming from that domain. And so there's tools like DMARC, DKIM, SPF that are really powerful for actually showing, okay, this is a spoof domain, or this is very likely to be a spoof domain. And so those things can also be built into those spam filters within your email inbox as well. And I think it's kind of having an appreciation for both sides of it. It's, okay, what can I build into my mailbox or my email gateway? But then what can I do for the users that are actually seeing those emails? Because neither's a perfect solution, right? Neither's going to block everything or spot every phishing email. But can I reduce the volume that's coming into those users so that people aren't logging in on a Monday morning and having 300 emails that they need to go through? 250 of which are phishing emails, right? You want to at least stop some of those bulk ones coming in.
Yeah, and it's not just what's coming in, it stops people spoofing your domain to send to other people.
Yeah.
So even though I'm sat here, if there's an organization, DGF9, spoofing my Kashif domain and using that to send emails to Tariq, tools, technical controls like this will stop them spoofing my domain to use against customer Tariq over there.
Yeah, and it's ultimately that thing of, like we said, back to legitimacy, right? If I can spoof it and add some legitimacy to my my phishing email, it's going to give me a bigger chance of success, right? Because it's added some level of this might be legit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the main areas I would say. I think we can obviously go into it more on the next episode about how to actually spot a phishing email. But I think in terms of talking through what phishing is and a good background and information into it.
And some technical controls I think we've covered.
Yeah.
We'll stop there for now. But what we will say is please help us spread the word about this podcast by sharing it with your friends and family.
Yeah, I think, like we said, phishing is probably the one that everyone experiences on a daily basis. People have to deal with scams all the time. So I think, having this sort of reach out to as much people as possible would be, super useful for us, but also super useful for them.
Yeah, and thank you for listening to us once again. I've been Kash.
And I'm Tariq. See you on the next one.
See you on the next one.